here. You know, it seems like a lot of.
I don't know, I thought opening here for the document.
All right, I'm turning it over.
Yeah, but no, that's legit.
But that's-
You should, yeah, go after that. Hey, can you get a,
No,
is it next to air?
you only get one.
The next to air?
Okay, good evening. This is the Huntley Community District 158 Board Meeting for Thursday, January the 21st. It's 6:01. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Gentry? Mr. Guerin?
Here.
Mr. Troy?
Here.
Mr. Quagliano?
Here.
Mrs. Melendi?
Here.
Mr. Craddy?
Here.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Okay, there are 5 present. We have a quorum. The next item on the agenda is, I'd like to make a motion to move into closed session at 6:02 for the items enumerated in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Melendi. Can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Quagliano?
Yes.
Mr. Craddy?
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi?
Yes.
Mr. Guerin?
Yes.
Mr. Gentry? Mr. Troy?
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino?
Okay, that motion passes. We will move into closed session for approximately the next half an hour. All right.
How come no one else gets this, but, oh, you do? Okay.
Hey, Brian. Hey, Margaret.
Hi, guys.
There's Pam. Hi, Pam.
Hey, Katie, congratulations on making it. It was awesome.
Anybody
Thank you. I honestly did not think I was going to.
I'm so proud of you. That's a lot of work.
Hi, Mrs. Morrisfelder.
Hi, Katie.
Tell
Emily waved
Kelsey
on
I
camera
said
without
hi.
me
Here we go. Does anybody talk? Can somebody talk?
Yeah. Are you in your
There
car?
we go. There you go. Sorry. Hey, guys, I'm on a ski trip with the ski club, so I'm in my car taking a dinner break. That's why I look like a bum. Sorry.
You look great. You look great.
I got kind of a sketchy little lighting setup here. I'm trying to. Here we go. Let's see.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to say hey and thanks for joining us real quick this evening. Just so you know, our meeting is live on YouTube and streaming right now. So say hey to all your YouTube friends that are watching. Just so you know, the board usually comes out of closed session around 7 o'clock. I had asked you to come on just a little bit early because there's a few things to happen to get you into the position where you can hear me and you can actually talk back now. So I think I've got everybody set. So when the board comes back, they'll adjourn them or they'll reform the meeting, pledge of allegiance, those sorts of things. And then we'll jump relatively quickly into student recognition and they'll turn it over to you guys. And I'll be here kind of behind the scenes. So if anything goes awry, I'll try to act pretty quickly and see what we can't do to make it fix in a hurry. So if anybody else joins in terms of students or staff, I'll bring them into the meeting as well as soon as I see them.
And Chris, just to let you guys all know, I left a little note for them to first turn it over to Leah in the high school and then over to Brian at Heinemann. So that should be the order. Oops, sorry, Mrs. Novak and Mr. Faulkner.
It's okay. And really great kids here.
Now, Chris, do you need us to stay logged into this stream or should we flip back over to watch the board meeting? Like, I don't want to have some big like dinging, hang up sound or something. Like if we flipped over, do you want us, what do you want us to do?
When student recognition is done, go ahead and leave this meeting and check out, it should be streaming live on YouTube as well.
Okay.
So otherwise you'll hear all of the ins and outs of all the stuff you don't want to hear with Zoom behind the scenes stuff. So
That's what great.
yeah, if there's any confusion about that throughout, I can handle that when student recognition wraps up as well.
All right. Thank you.
No problem at all.
Hey, Kat, I have a quick question. So I know I call you Kat.
Mhm.
Jorgensen just called you Katie, and your name says Caitlin. What would you like me to call you when I introduce you?
Um, that's you call me Cat because that's what I go by in high school.
That's why I said Kat.
Like all throughout middle school, I went by Katie. But then when I hit high school, there were so many Caitlins and Katies. There's even someone named Caitlin Gooden. So I go by Cat, so there's less confusion.
All right, fabulous. Because like I said, I was like, oh no, have I been calling you the
So
wrong?
yeah, you can
I'm
introduce me
like,
as Cat.
okay, perfect. That's what I'll do. Thanks.
Okay, we're back in open session at 7:10. Can we have roll call?
Mr. Troy,
Here.
Mrs. Melendi,
Here.
Mr. Gentry,
Here.
Mr. Quagliano,
Here.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Here.
Mr. Guerin,
Here.
Mr. Craddy.
Here. Okay, we're all here. Item 3.1, there is no action coming out of closed session. We'll move on to item 4, which is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we're on to item 5. Some good stuff. Student recognition. And I believe I can turn this over to Mrs. Novak first.
Thank you so much. On behalf of the high school music department, which includes Ms. Bieber, our choir director, Mr. Krivicic, our band director, and myself, I am so honored to recognize the Huntley High School students chosen to represent our school at this year's ILMEA Senior Festival. This year, the Illinois Music Educators Association Festival was hosted in a virtual setting. Students attended a motivational keynote with Associate Director of Bands and Marching Illini Director, Dr. Barry Hauser, and then attended 2 master classes specific to their instrument and ensemble. The Huntley High School students that were invited to participate in this year's festival were Olivia Gatto, Kat Goodman, and Frankie Scarpelli for senior band, Kimberlyn Bierschken, Kendall Elrod, Zach Leitzke, and Aylin Schofield for senior chorus. Aiden Huber was selected for senior jazz band, and Caden Rasmussen for senior orchestra. We were also very recently made aware that Olivia Gatto was invited to participate in the All-State Festival, where she'll be performing on piano, which makes her actually one of the top high school piano players in the state. So we are really excited. So congratulations to all of our students. They did a really, really fabulous job.
Excellent. Good to hear. Good to hear we got students being able to do stuff out there right now. That's great. All right, and then I believe we also have Mr. Faulkner. I believe you have a presentation for Heinemann.
I do, thank you. I'm not going to actually do the presenting. I can't take credit for that, but I just wanted to thank the board and administration for this opportunity. It's always awesome to celebrate our amazing students with you in our community. So thank you again for the opportunity. Mrs. Jorgensen, Mr. Rohde, take it away.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Faulkner. First, we just want to say how awesome it was that Margaret and Emily were selected for the District 9 ILMEA Junior Honor Band. Just so you know, hundreds of students audition each year, and less than half of them are actually selected. As you can imagine, the audition process is quite intense. The girls had to submit a video of themselves playing extremely difficult music, and any little mistake meant the difference between making it or not making it. Sounds like fun, right? Sign me up. So I gave them the music last spring, and they put their nose to the grindstone, and they practiced all spring, summer, and fall. So obviously their hard work and dedication paid off, and they were both selected and participated in the virtual honor band this past November. To say that we are incredibly proud of them is a huge understatement. Both Mr. Rohde and I feel so lucky to have these 2 amazing students in our class. And Mr. Rohde has a few words, I think. He's coming off the ski hill, so.
Yeah, I'm not being held
Battered
hostage.
and
I'm in my mobile office here at the base of Alpine Mountain. All right. Well, as you heard Mrs. J say a moment ago, we are incredibly proud of Margaret and Emily. Margaret's been playing trumpet with us at Heinemann for 3 years, here, and this is actually the second time she's made the ILMEA junior band, and this is the first time Emily's made it. She's been playing flute with us at Heinemann for 3 years as well. So I want to point out that Mrs. J and I honestly can't take the credit for what these girls have achieved. They give, we give all our students the means to succeed, to put the time in outside of school and to make it into this group. And both these girls put in countless hours outside of school practicing the instruments. They take private lessons with professional musicians who specialize on their instruments. So not only are these girls great musicians, but they're also great, excellent students involved in lots of other activities and sports.
Just to finish
Take
up,
it away, Pam. Ms.
yeah,
J.
these are the type of students that all teachers dream about. They're polite, they're kind, they're hardworking, and they're fun to talk to, even on Zooms. They talk on Zooms. And we can't wait to see what they do next year in high school. So once again, we'd like to thank the board for taking the time to recognize our students. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Thank you to the students. Congratulations on your achievements there. It's hard work, practice, the dedication you put in. I think it's great that they're only in junior high and moving on to high school. You got 4 more great years to hone your skills and see you at these other level meets going forward. So congratulations to you. Okay, we're on item 6 is public comment. Do we have any public comment tonight?
Not this evening.
No, nothing. No, Mr. Armstrong.
That's correct. We have none.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Armstrong. All right, then we're on to item 7, which is revision and adoption of the agenda. So Ms. Lombard, do you have a report at all tonight?
Not this evening. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Slichter?
Nothing
Do you have
tonight.
Okay. Mr. Altmeyer?
Oh, you bet, yeah.
Okay, we're keeping you
it's on the agenda.
Yep, okay. Yeah, I see, I'm sorry. I see your dots in here. Okay, Dr. Zare?
I do not have any updates. Thank you.
Okay. Dr. Budzinski?
Not this evening, no, sir.
Okay. Dr. Del Castillo?
No, this evening. Thank you.
Okay, that was the Darth Vader version? Okay. 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 All right, then. I'd like to make the motion to adopt the agenda as presented with the removal of items 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Troy.
Patty.
You got that? Who got that? It was you again? God, you're throwing your voices. I apologize. John. I always hear the voice and I always think it's Paul. So. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So it's just a voice. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Agenda is adopted. So we are on to item 10. Mr. Altmeyer, your spotlight there.
Thank you very much. I've got a couple items on the update list here. One of them is my monthly fiscal update memo. Rather than go through everything on the list, I do want to point out a few key points that I think we should, definitely address. The good news, the very first item on the list is very good news. Actually, we during the month we heard about the second round of ESSER funding. So if you recall, the district last year received $184,000 in the CARES Act ESSER funding. And ESSER is the elementary and secondary level school, essentially the emergency relief fund. And so we have received federal information that we are going to receive, a good amount of money. And I wanted to address this because at the last board meeting, we had some public comments that were mentioning, upwards of $1 million being received. We have received information at the federal level, but nothing from ISB yet. And the information we received at the federal level is based on last year's Title I funding, as well as student enrollment. And those estimates that are currently out there that are being floated around, well, they've changed from day to day because every day I check it, and it ranges anywhere from $631,000 all the way down to $598,000 for that second round of funding. But what that doesn't take into account, and ISB has to adjust that and tell us what our final number is, so we're anxiously awaiting that. It doesn't account for charter schools. It doesn't account for a few other things. So more than likely, it's going to be less than that 631 or 598. Today, it was at 607,000. That's the current estimate. So still really great news. Just like the initial $184,000 of CARES funding, there is flexibility in how we can use that. We're not tied to those Title I restrictions as to how we spend it. It's primarily used for, the pandemic and supplies needed for the pandemic. It's also used for lost learning, which is how we utilized those funds in prior year. And I think Scott could probably expand upon that if the board would like to hear that. So that is really good news. Scott, did you want to add anything on that?
So yeah, just as a refresher of how the $184,000 was used that we received last spring with our summer success program, pending for a summer success program, where we provide direct tutoring to students over the summer. We use student resources to support the learning in reading and math in the remote environment. Based on the STAR assessment, where we specifically targeted students that were not meeting the growth targets. Prioritization of curriculum. We had a condensed curriculum, especially at the secondary level, in order to be able to meet and move things forward in a remote environment. And then training our staff for equity and restorative practices as part of some of our summer training based on preparing for the trauma-informed practices that we've learned are obviously still very important in the environment that we're living in, just the refresher. And so with these new ESSER dollars, we're currently working on a plan as to how we'll bring plans to you and how we'll prioritize the use of those dollars. Some of them we're in conversations about additional summer planning and summer school options that are very preliminary at this point, but we'll do that with details.
Okay. Thank you very much. A few other items to note. We here at the board meetings have talked about a Medicaid opportunity called Free Care, and that's an opportunity for which, if the state of Illinois passes an amendment, a SPA, a special purpose amendment, school districts across the state would be able to claim Medicaid for non-IEP'd individuals that are Medicaid eligible. And so I've been working very hard on that with a few other people that are part of IASBO, and we made a connection with the IAASC, which is the Special Education Association, and they're working with a group called Healthy Schools that have helped many other states actually pass that amendment. And today there's about 13 states across the country for which their school districts can claim Medicaid for non-IEP'd individuals, of course, that are Medicaid eligible. And it's a big deal because it could increase our Medicaid funding by as much as maybe 20% or maybe a little more, which would represent almost a couple $100,000 a year in additional funding that we could use, for our students. And we've made an inroad with Healthy Schools, and that was just the other day. So I wanted to bring that up, and that is very positive. They've got a great relationship with HFS, and we are getting together as a team, Healthy Schools and IASBO, to help kind of move that along and kind of push that through the legislature, because it still needs to go through. Springfield. So Ms. Melendi, we might be talking. So that's that item. Another really important item, which is also good news, frankly, is CPI came out during the month, and CPI came in at 1.4%. And generally, I would say that's not good news, but it's good news because we were thinking it was going to come in at 1%. So coming in at 1.4 is a little higher than what we all expected. So that will be the 2021 levy and the percentage we use for that moving forward. And then lastly, it didn't make the update memo because just recently we received a grant. We applied for a grant, a Medicaid grant, go figure. There was a Medicaid grant opportunity actually related to the CARES Act funding. And I want to read this because it was part of the Provider Relief Fund, which supports healthcare providers throughout the pandemic. And most school districts, I got to be honest with you, hardly any school district really learned about this in the state of Illinois before it was too late. We learned about it on one of the very last days that you could file for that. And it's tied to Medicaid, and it's based on how much Medicaid you have received over the prior years. We didn't receive a ton of money, but we received $23,000, and that check came in just the other day. So I did want to pass that good news along as well. If there's any other questions on the fiscal memo, I'd be happy to answer them at this time. No other questions?
I know, well, I just know it's a small amount, but what does the 23K use for specifically?
Well, it's actually, they consider it a Medicaid kind of reimbursement. It covers loss of Medicaid revenue. So we all know that, you know, in the fourth quarter, when we went into remote, right, when the pandemic hit, we actually had a loss of revenues as a result of not being able to service our kids as much as we wanted to. And so this is kind of Medicaid relief for, well, healthcare providers, and believe it or not, we are healthcare providers for that. So our share of that was approximately $23,000, which covers summer months as well as the fourth quarter. So we're not tied to spend it to anything. It's more or less a reimbursement for which we would have received if the pandemic didn't occur.
Yep.
Because a lot of providers, you know, are relying on that incoming revenue stream, I think. So we have since shared that with our association and all the school districts in the state. So if there's another round of funding, districts will be eligible or know about it, I should say. Next item on the list, if there's no further questions.
Feel free.
Okay. In front of you, you have the November 2020 financial executive summary. We continue to track favorable to budget, primarily driven by salaries as well as benefits. Salaries are favorable, primarily the result of the pandemic and the related furloughs that we've had. And benefits are running favorable for two reasons. I would say partially is the pandemic, but I think it's primarily driven by fewer large claims in the pipeline than what we've had for the last 2 years. So we continue to, I want to say, outperform, have less claims than we have the last 2 years on a monthly basis, because we've had some significantly large claims in the pipeline the last 2 years. And we've seen that kind of come back, which is good. It means our employees are getting healthy. So that's kind of the overall financials of the district. From a dashboard perspective, if you do look at the dashboard, there's a lot of red on the revenue line items. Obviously, a lot of that is driven by the pandemic. Food services revenue is down, but the cost associated with food services is also down. But we have to remember that some of that revenue, right, that was coming in for school lunches also covered some of the overhead that we have. So there will be some loss of revenue there, but other line items, the main line item that will have a lasting impact that will continue to be unfavorable throughout the year is building rentals. So other than those two, I do want you to take note of National School Lunch though. National School Lunch are federal funds we receive for serving lunches. And with that summer feeding program, for which we are providing meals to anybody who's under the age of 18, and we're providing breakfast and we're providing lunch, we are tracking very favorable, and we expect to exceed budget by a good amount by year end because of that. So that is kind of good news for us as well. So other than that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Altmeyer on his revenue and expenditures report? Just thinking. So while there's variances on that revenue side, I'm just thinking, I mean, projecting out through the end of the year, I mean, are you overly concerned at all on those items? I know you're concerned about other things possibly down the pike here, but what you see there on the dashboard, are you concerned that it's going to materially impact our overall?
Well, I think, there was one other line item for which I do think we will be unfavorable on, and that is Medicaid, based on the number of services we are able to provide under the pandemic situation. Hope that will improve starting Monday. And I am super excited about Monday as everybody is. But although we will have some material shortfalls, right? Building rentals will be, in my opinion, a material shortfall. Medicaid will have a material shortfall. We have a very material shortfall for food services revenue, but that's again offset by the cost of not having the cost of food, right? It'll also be offset by an increase in national school lunch favorability. So, I think overall on the revenue side, I think we'll be okay. And I think we'll be okay. The biggest bogey is aside from Medicaid, it's the food services revenue, but that's going to be offset by the cost of food that we don't have necessarily. And then the increase in food services. So I think from a revenue standpoint, I think we'll be pretty good.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whatever is shortfalls there that you've got on your expenditure side, favorable, that should put you overall still correct.
Yeah. And that's a supply line item. So if you look at the supplies on the main page of the executive summary, we're at 22% of budget. Whereas for the end of November, if I do my math really quick, I think it's about 41%, right? 5 divided by 12.
Yeah.
So we're running very favorable in supplies, well, for a few reasons, but a lot of that is driven by food services. And it's also driven by building supplies, right? From the high school to the middle schools, the buildings not utilizing their budget to the extent they would have. Energy cost is in there. So, and we're saving a little bit, obviously with solar as well. But that's where the line item for which you're seeing that favorability. Great question. Of course.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Altmeyer on this section? Okay. Is that it for you, or do you have anything else?
No, that's it. Thanks.
That's it. We're going to shut you down.
All right.
Okay. That means we'll be moving on to item 14, community relations and student outreach, which we have our FOIA requests there. Is there any comments, questions related to our FOIA requests? Not. There's nothing further. This is your committee, right? Yeah, there's nothing further there. So, okay. So we're on to item 15, which is donations. Dr.
The other thing that I would just add is a thank you to Flint Scientific. You received a donation of 500 disposable masks and 100 bottles of hand sanitizer. It's always appreciated. In a while since we've had a donation made our way to a board meeting like this, but obviously very appreciative, especially given the context of what we're dealing with. But thanks to Flint Scientific, it's been a great partner of ours.
I was going to say, how did that come about? They just reach out?
I think they just reached out. Yeah. But Flint Scientific's been a client of theirs for
Thank you, Flynn Scientific. Item 16, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Rowe.
All right, well, I'll jump right back in. I have several items, and obviously Monday is a big day for us in the school district, and a little bit of preparation here. We've restocked classrooms with the necessary PPE for welcoming students on Monday. As Mr. Altmeyer said a couple minutes ago, to say that we are excited for our kids to be back is an understatement for sure. Parents, please complete the monthly health screener. This will cover your child for their Monday access to the building. On Monday, elementary students will receive their daily health screener sheet for parental sign-off and a bag tag. Any secondary student needing an ID will receive that on the first day of school, either Monday or Thursday. Their monthly screener will suffice until they have that. After that is received, the daily screener sent via email each morning will be their ticket into the building. They'll scan in with their ID at the secondary level. I saw the process occurring on Monday at the high school. The freshmen were taking their tours with their lead crew leaders. It was extremely smooth. We built our own internal process, and it actually happens much faster than our hero scanning process. If your kids or you've seen that happen in the past, if we've had access to dances in the past, extremely fast, extremely smooth. It populates an Excel spreadsheet and pops up their ID, and the Excel window is either red or green. If it's completed or it's not, they need to go through the secondary screening area. Vaccine update. Educators are in Group 1B. There's been a lot of activity and conversation around this lately. The McHenry County Department of Health is nearing the end of vaccinating Group 1A. It's preparing for our Group 1B. We've done everything that we can to prepare for that thus far, including surveying our staff to give the numbers to MCDH to let them know how many of our staff prepare for it. They know how many doses they need for our school district. We expect that there will be a very quick turnaround time from when they receive a vaccine, the dosage, to when they ask us to be ready to receive that dose within a week or less to be ready for that. And we are ready for that. So we continue to collaborate with MCDH as well as other county school districts for how we can best expedite that process and be a partner for them. As you may not realize, but there are 90,000 residents in McHenry County that are part of Group 1B. Like 1B are police, fire, educators, and residents of 65 and older. So police and fire are almost finished with their drowning vaccine, and they're ready to move on to educators. There's a very large sector of our population, just with 300,000 citizens in McHenry County, and 90,000 of those citizens are in this grouping. So the current struggle that McHenry County Department of Health faces is the rate at which the vaccine arrives. It's been kind of trickling in. So promise at the national level is that is going to rapidly increase. I'm hopeful that that promise is kept and it's true, because that's really what's keeping us from moving forward at a faster rate. And hopefully we can get to the general population very, very quickly. All right, lunches, something that's really important message here. So every student in our district, as Mr. Altmeyer mentioned, is eligible to have a free lunch every day. We know that not every student is in need of that service or interested in taking the lunch every day. All of our students who are attending school in person will be offered a lunch and a breakfast the next day when they're leaving. We will include this in our communication tomorrow, but I wanted to mention it here and speak directly to parents. Parents, if you're not interested in your child taking this lunch, it's no problem at all. Please communicate with your child to simply say no thank you when they are offered that lunch. And then any remote student who is in need may sign up to pick up their lunches at Marlowe. We hope to transition back to daily deliveries after a week or two under our belt. We can have our staffing levels appropriately managed and manage our transportation and cafeteria staff so we can transition back to delivery. And I wanted to say publicly that it's very important to me that we are able to continue the delivering of lunches every day to our families that are in need and have elected to remain remote. And I've conveyed this importance to Mr. Altmeyer and our food services team, as well as Ms. Lombard and our transportation team. And I know they will work very hard to make this happen as quickly as possible. But communicating to your child, if you're not interested in that meal, so we can properly remember how many we have to prepare for, and how many we're handing out each day will go a long way in helping that process. Next, I'll offer some thank yous. Speaking of transportation and food service, we'll start there. I would offer a huge thank you to our transportation and food services team for the daily lunch creations and deliveries to over 1,300 families every single day around our community. In my opinion, they're our local heroes, and I'm very grateful for their dedication to the families of our community. Thank you to our principals additionally, and our building administrative teams for the work behind the scenes to prepare for Monday. This has been a very heavy lift. They put a lot of hours to get ready for this. They are all extremely excited to welcome our kids back to the building, and I'm grateful for their efforts to accommodate the many requests that have come in from our families in the last few weeks. I know they've granted as many of them as they possibly could. Finally, I want to thank Dr. Amy McCrindle and our new remote teachers. Dr. McCrindle has prepared an 8-day remote teaching boot camp that she's led our teachers through, taking over remote sections and transitioning them from understanding the theory and how to support teachers, placing them in a position where they're taking their understanding and putting it into practice and building their own platforms. We have amazing teachers in this district. I'm confident that our families that have elected to remain remote are going to finish the year saying that they have formed relationships with 2 great teachers at the end of this experience. And then finally, this evening, I'm hoping that we can have a discussion. And the discussion is around a conversation that's been swirling and Mr. Altmeyer and I have had. Mr. Fabiano had a number of times throughout the fall. That's around how we can we manage some of the surpluses that Mr. Altmeyer has discussed in his presentation tonight and has mentioned a couple of times throughout the school year. Mr. Altmeyer and I have been discussing various ways that we can give back to our community and how those surpluses can work to their favor during this very unusual school year. The options that exist, I see 3 ways that we can look at this. There could be a debt abatement. And a debt abatement would be the goal of negating an increase to the 2021 tax levy that our taxpayers would experience. Therefore, our residents would not realize the tax increase next year to the extent that we're able to afford. Meaning, if we're able to declare a surplus of a certain number of dollars, we can dedicate a certain number, say it's $1 million. We can give $1 million towards abating those taxes that we can reduce the amount that they would have to pay, assuming the levy is passed next December. Second option, we can simply cut checks to our families break the percentage of it and basically use it as a fee reimbursement for this year. The third, we could reduce the fees that we would be charging our families for next year. All options could be on the table. They all have positives, they all have challenges. But I'm hoping that we could have a conversation tonight and get a little feedback from you based on your take and what you feel may be the best option. If an option is favorable, and let us see where we end this school year, come at the end of the fiscal year, May and June, and we can head in that direction if that's something that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we've been having some discussions on how we do it. I know we had some, and we just passed our levy there in December, and I know a few board members were concerned about the increases that we pass along, which are normal ones, our CPI increases through there. And again, there's reasons, as we explained at that meeting, why it's important to kind of do it, because it's lost revenue for forever. Being able to come back in this fashion and possibly either abate debt or do fees does not harm those future levies. Okay, so these are kind of like one-time utilizations of if we're, again, I think that the idea is kind of still wait and see a little bit, but we wanted to have some preliminary discussions with everybody here to get their temperature to see which type, if we were going to go that route, which type they thought was the best route for us to go.
There's some unknowns that still exist.
Yeah, I was going to say, we don't know.
That when we return to school, we don't know what costs they're going to skyrocket when we come back. Our sub costs could go through the roof. That's Mr. Altmeier's number one concern. But our health insurance costs could go up if people get sick. Certainly, those are certainly, they're unknown. We can't control those. But if we get favorable, there are certainly options that are on the table for us to give back to our community who we know is experiencing financial hardship. And you know, these are some requests that we received from them in the fall, and we couldn't give good answers to them because I mean the reality is we're a tier 2 school district, and a tier 2 EBF district meaning that you know we are funded at 68% adequacy. So we're not low. We're not Naperville that can cut a check back to the district because they have money and they're not concerned.
Large commercial base. They have all kinds of things going.
We have different financial concerns than a tier 4 school district. That said, we are trending very favorably. And if we end up in a place where we have the surplus, of course we would like to help our community in a way that we can, however we can. It's just a matter of what's the best avenue to accomplish that.
All right. So I don't know if, go right down the line. Again, we're not looking for anybody to make decisions tonight, anything like that. Just trying to get a pulse so that the administration can kind of start getting a direction, just having a contingency plan for possibly getting ready to do something like this later during this fiscal year. So I don't know, Mr. Guerin, what your thoughts are?
I don't remember the order of the three actions, but the one about the taxes.
The debt abatement?
Yeah, it seems to be, in my mind, first thought, the most fair just because it affects everyone in the district.
Yeah, that was his first, and understand that's the one that benefits the entire community as a whole, that everybody is affected on the real estate tax bill by that, as opposed to, refunding or reducing registration fees, which only affect, obviously, people.
Yeah, I think people that don't have kids in the district are hurting too from.
Correct.
So that's my initial reaction.
Okay.
I love the idea of being able to give anything back to any of our taxpayers in the community. My question is, the refund for either this year or registration for next year, do we have a estimated dollar amount?
Yeah, our registration fees are like 1.2 million, I think.
Our registration fees are 1.4.
1.4.
million.
Yeah, they usually end the year between 1.3 and 1.4. Sorry, Scott.
So how would you refund that, if a family has 4 children at all different levels and they pay, $600 in fees and another family pays $200?
Well, that's where, when I say there are challenges.
Okay.
To cut a check to all of our families, challenges is in the process and the process of doing that is fiscal. I mean, it would bring Mr. Altmeier's department to a halt to accomplish. Of course, it's something that I'm willing to ask him to do.
I have full faith in Mr. Altmeier's department.
No, it can happen, but
yeah.
But I'm just saying, it can happen, but it's a very heavy lift in order to do something like that.
Right.
That's where the third option comes. That's where the third option comes. Is it better to cut a refund
or just
not
reduce.
charge next year?
Yeah. So then there's actually
And then you have our seniors are the ones that are the only ones that would not be.
Right. So then there technically is a fourth option, and that would be a hybrid of those two, which if you were going to do a hybrid of those two, you would just reduce your registration fees in the next year. As you're billing, you're just changing the billing that's going out to a reduced number is what you do. So you wouldn't have to worry about cutting checks to anybody, and maybe your debt abatement is not the high level number. I mean, maybe it's a 75% of that target number, and the 25% of the number is reduced registration fees type of thing.
Right.
So that might be a fourth approach to all of that.
I do like that hybrid option.
That's not what we discussed.
That's a win-win for everyone. Is that difficult, Mark?
Well,
I mean,
the debt abatement's easy, and a reduction in registration fees would be easy. It's the cutting of the checks and which would be challenging, right? I mean, we
Yeah,
have
I
the
think we're
information.
saying-
We could do it, and I'm confident we could do it probably fairly quickly. But it is we have 5,000 families. So we would, it'd still be a very lengthy, it would be a process.
So it would be
It'd be a lot easier to do a debt abatement combined with a reduction of registration fees or just a flat reduction of registration fees.
Yeah, if we were gonna do that.
I would kind of agree with that too. I would love to do the hybrid option of the abatement and then the reduced registration next year. I think this year, you're right, it's going to be very difficult to be able to do that.
Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I guess kind of thinking of it logically, the reason, if kind of the premise is we believe COVID is the reason for the excess, I think that's straightforward to say that's what we're trying to address. And then you look at, the charter of what the school is, you have, I think it's 5,000 families total. 5,000 families are getting the services of the school supported by the entire community. In our contract, so to speak, we are tasked with taking collectively the community's money and educating the children, which is a subset of the population. So if COVID is the cause of the surplus and the services within our contract with the community deal with the families and the services they're not getting, it feels that leads me to be more biased towards something with the registration fees, which would be directly proportional to the pain or the lack of services or lack of our normal product to our target audience. And if you did something broad-based with the entire tax base, I think that's just draining the money out without a cause and effect. Where focusing on registration fees, you're addressing where COVID has forced us to be short on what we've provided to the student base. So I guess I would be more inclined to doing it through registration fees and probably more inclined to do it more immediate time frame than later time frame. That's my thoughts.
Initially, I thought, a refund of this year's registration fees, like Kevin was saying, that more immediate families are hurting now. But of course, that doesn't include our entire community. When I think about tax abatements, and I think we've got families in the community that do rent. So how would they be able to so this would not then help them?
Well,
Okay,
in theory, you gotta remember the landlord's paying rent. So it's affecting them. Does it mean they're gonna get a rent reduction? Probably not.
Right. So,
Can't help
it's,
that.
when I'm thinking, about who we're helping in our community, I'm torn between the, like you said, the immediate, like Kevin said, the immediate relief on the registration fees. Dr. I do have a question. Families that have withdrawn from the district this year for whatever reason, have they received any kind of refund on the registration fees and prorating anything? Does that happen?
Yeah, if I heard the question right, it wasn't coming through loud and clear. But if the question, if somebody leaves the district right into the school year, generally their registration, and if they pay in full at the beginning of the year, their registration fees would be prorated and they would get a portion of that back. But we do get to a certain point of the year for which, if they stay beyond December and they pay the registration fees, we don't refund a portion of those. And Dr. Budzinski would be able to validate that as well. I think that's right, Chris?
That is correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would have to manage through that as well, right? Making sure we're accounting for families that have left for which they did receive refunds. And that's all in the system, right? We have that all in the database. So it's manageable.
Okay. So, I mean, I'm really fine with either the abatement or the more of an immediate, refund of the registration fee. I'm looking at the whole, you know, this is initial thoughts, I haven't pondered on it long enough.
Okay, Sean?
Yeah, I can see both sides. I do, I like the abatement. My concern and things that you often hear is you're not the only taxing body, right? So you're not going to see, I think it's not tangible enough for somebody to see the kickback. So I kind of agree with Mr. Gentry in the fact that, to give back to, the individuals that, the discounted registration, I would be kind of more inclined on that, just because I feel like with the abatement, you're not going to know, they're not going to see it as much as they would with, a discounted fee or a check.
Right, but what do you think about the fact that it's only a select
Correct.
number of people as opposed to a broad?
So that's the other, I see both sides. So, the abatement, covers everybody as a whole.
Yeah.
I just think that.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be, you're right, it's not going to be massive. When you're spreading it out against a big, large group like that, it's not big dollars on a tax bill. It just really covers the fact you're offsetting the increase, which is, for some, it's only, 20, 30, 40, 50 bucks on their tax bill.
Right.
Type of thing. So it's not big money on a person-by-person basis, but it's meant to kind of stem the tide for people in that respect. But yeah, if you're looking for a more tangible element, people, it would be a lot bigger number for just if you were just going to benefit the families that are.
I don't want everybody to think that their bill's going to go down $200-300 because we don't have control over that either.
No, it's not. So you're correct. Mr. Troy?
So my knee-jerk reaction was to abate the tax portion of it. Since everybody was paying into that, I think everybody should get a benefit. And I understand it's a watered down benefit.
Yeah.
I mean, because like you said, it's dispersed to a larger crowd, so the amount turns out to be less than what it would be for just people that have kids in the system. But my immediate thought went to the people that are also paying rent in the area who have children in the district. And I understand it goes to the property owner, but those are the families probably that are more disproportionately affected by paying those same fees. Correct. Within the living confines that they have. So that's where I'm trying to reconcile that decision. But my initial leaning is more so towards the property owners. And if we could find a way to take care of the people that also rent, I'd like to see that kind of a hybrid analysis, I guess.
Yeah. So the other side of this, or other piece, keep in mind on the registration fee refund the families that are on free and reduced, right? They're not paying any registration fee. So your lower income families, they're not going to see anything from.
Or half, right?
Yep. So I mean, not to,
Yeah, and Tony, I don't want to. Can I throw a correction out there? You mentioned free or reduced. It's actually those families that, yes, free and reduced in general, but they also have to fill out a fee waiver. So registration fees are only reduced for those that fill out the fee waiver form, as well as the free and reduced, and they have to be eligible based on the fee waiver form.
Okay.
So
there
it's
different
not
cri-
just
is
free
there-
or
is-
reduced.
is- Right, you're right.
It's
There must be more
eligibility.
criteria, is what you're telling me? Is that what you're
Yeah,
alluding to?
years ago, we implemented more criteria so that we have the ability to, for lack of a better word, audit those numbers so that we feel good about the fee waiver side.
Okay. All right, so again, there's no decisions being made tonight. We just wanted to get a general discussion started in that arena. Take the temperature of the board to see if
I still come back to, like, I'm an example myself of my child has graduated. I pay taxes as part of a responsible member of the community. I'm supposed to hold the board accountable to be cost efficient with the tax dollars I provide.
Yep.
So far this year, that contract in air quotes, between me and the district hasn't been broken. I mean, I haven't been impacted from the school.
Correct.
So whether I get $30 back or not, I don't think that's the most appropriate if COVID is the cause, COVID is the impact. The impact is felt by the families, the impact not of COVID, but the impact of COVID had on the schools, having an impact on the students. That's what we're compensating for. And if that's what we're compensating for and all that string of logic holds, the money should go to the families. As opposed
And
to,
I understand your string of logic. I don't know that that's really the string of logic at the end of the day. I mean, I don't think we're looking at it as compensation to families affected by COVID primarily. I think we're looking at the school district has favorable results, possibly will have favorable operating results that were really not anticipated, and they're COVID related.
So we were better than.
So we levied a certain amount of money that at the end of the day wasn't technically required because you didn't have to incur the operating expenses because of a.
So on that
I
logic though, you pass every surplus you run into back to the.
I think it's the logic is more because this is a one-time, pandemic event that they're looking to, that it caused a significant economic downturn to the country, to the area as a whole, that you're trying to provide a little back in that sense to cushion it. So I think that's the genesis of, and Dr. Rowe, correct me if I'm wrong, but was that kind of your thought process on this too? It was more along those lines than just pure educational. We had to operate in this fashion, and it's not been ideal for our students and their families. So we're gonna just. I mean, that certainly has occurred.
It's difficult to put your thumb on it. I mean, Mr. Gentry, your logic.
Yeah, I follow the logic.
It's hard to argue your logic, but I think that like Mr. Cargiano was saying, as a public body, we are operating in a favorable position, and our community is hurting financially because of the worldwide crisis that we're living in. So, because we operate with their dollars, and we have the ability to help by giving some of the surplus that we have to them when they're documents in a very unique time in our world's history. How should we?
Right.
Is the question. There's no right answer.
Right. No, there's
no wrong answer.
Okay, you're trying to.
No, and I agree that we're in a, once in 102 years issue, but from a precedent setting standpoint is, well, what's the next unique thing that, like I said, taking to the extreme, every time you're in a surplus, you should pass it back, dollar for dollar. But that's probably not prudent financial management in terms of building reserves for maintenance and rainy days and that type of thing. But
I mean, there are plenty of things that we could do with the surplus.
No, right.
No, I'm not making the case of keeping the money for keeping the money's sake. It's just saying, what are we trying to solve for? Taxes are too high. Property taxes in Illinois are too high. They will, dare say, always too high in the relevant horizon of the next 100 years. So our charter in that equation is for the dollars that we have to deliver an efficient educational product and experience to the community as a whole, concentrated on the families with children. And if we're fulfilling that and fulfilling that in a cost-efficient manner, is it our charter to solve the ills of the system around us that we work in?
Right, and I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I mean, that is a good philosophical question to pose, is to really, is that our charge? Yeah, I would concur that I'm not, excited is not the word. I'm not, from the financial side, it's kind of, we know where we're at in our place, and, as far as what tier we are, we're not the richest school district out there. Should we really be pushing money back? But I think it's more a function of the times, and the function of this specific year as to the favorability of the year and the cause of that favorability. And it's more, I mean, I get what you're saying, and I'm trying to work through it as to, is it more compelling to focus on your families who as you stated, you more or less have a contract, air quotes, with, or is it to the community as a whole that actually provided the money? And I think I just keep coming back to the who's provided the money, primarily in this case. If you look proportionately at the registration fees to the property taxes that are generated, obviously the property taxes are considerably more percentage-wise. And I just think that's because that's where the source of those funds are coming from. You would focus primarily, and that's why I suggested more of a hybrid approach, so that you are pushing back some money on the registration fees, but still focus more on the community as a whole type of thing. So, yeah, it's good discussion. I think I don't know if anybody wants to run through it any further. Like I said, we don't have to make a decision tonight. I think there's enough that we talked about to kind of chew on and think through for future discussion and action.
What I walk away with is the interest is there.
Correct.
The end result is a little bit of
up in the air.
but I'm
Correct.
walking away with a little bit of a board leniency towards
Possibly doing that. If
something towards fees was what I'm hearing, but that's not 100% because the debate should rage on, I think.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, and then just knowing that it's still predicated on
Right,
kind of final
predicated
result.
on our stance.
Where this thing goes and where the state's going to go with their budget. And the state says they're going to cut
You will
back
hear when
10,
try to get
15%.
this legislative update, we're in for a doozy of a spring, I think.
Okay. All right. Was there anything further, Dr. Rowe, in your report?
No, sir, that is all.
Okay. All right. President's report, I'll just try and be brief here. No great mystery here that we're all excited to see culmination of, being back in person here shortly on Monday. So I think we're all excited to see how that goes and turns out. Definitely, we see other neighboring school districts have started, but I do want to, I don't know if any of you have paid attention, but there is on the ISB website, they do have pretty much, they keep a running survey of school districts in the state as to who's in person, who's blended, and who is remote. And just, it's a real good, they update it every couple of days. And it's kind of, dependent on the superintendent going in there and updating what their status is type of thing. But I know we hear, oh yeah, this school's in, this school's in. This tells you who is really in, what their status is. So I know people have bandied about all these in-person districts and whatever. The only two in-person districts right now that according to this, in Kane and McHenry County, McHenry has one, it's Riley, it's got 220 students in it. Okay, that's all that's completely in person in our county. Geneva is the only one in Kane County. It's fully in person according to this website. So we're right in that, where schools are at, just getting back to you know, I would tell you they're still, you know, they're just started to climb over that halfway mark of schools actually being in on a blended basis, with still a large amount of school districts out there as remote. So some people might think we've been slow to get here. I think we've just been measured in our approach as to how we got about it. And like I said, time seems right, and it should be right. And I wish us all a lot of good luck, and hope we can all stay safe in that environment. So good luck to us all. So item 18, Legislation Committee. Mr. Craddy, do you have any updates for us?
I do. So a couple bills. 2170 is just waiting the governor's signature. I'll let Scott maybe elaborate a little bit more on this, but you know, some of the highlights that I saw in here, where it includes new high school graduate requirements, computer literacy, laboratory science by 2024, 2025, 2 years of foreign languages by 28 and 29, a requirement of ISB to assess all students coming in at the kindergarten level with a common assessment tool. A few of the items that were removed, or one of the items that was removed from there, that, you know, I kind of wanted to hear a little bit more about, but they're looking at additional 15 days of school, adding 15 days of school over the next couple of years. So, so that's something to keep an eye on. I think we'll continue to see more. I don't know if there'll be a lot of changes to that one.
Well, no changes now, but the thing that where this bill ended up is in a much better position than where it started. And that's, you know, thanks to our legislative partners with IESA and MUDA, and some others. You know, legislation, this is not how we're supposed to function. An omnibus bill of this nature, an omnibus bill like our police reform bill that was hammered through in a lame duck session, is not how our government is designed. It's wrong. Not that I'm going to change anything with this soapbox that I choose to stand on right now, but it's wrong. It's supposed to be handled over weeks and weeks and weeks of debate and be ironed out, but this is major change with good intention out of the Black Caucus, but bad outcomes, that they don't weigh the impact things are going to have. The rural districts in Illinois are not going to be able to find foreign language teachers so that every student can have 2 years of foreign language. It's an impossibility. Our universities cannot churn out graduates at the rate that they're going to be required. What is on the cusp of being filed is a trailer bill, because what was negotiated out of this bill was the implementation of the 2 years of foreign language. That's the big one in this one. And the 2 years of required foreign language was originally supposed to be implemented in 2024. And it was pushed back to 2028. So we have plenty of time, but a trailer bill is going to be introduced this spring to try and push it back to 2024. So it's a game of bait and switch. And the trouble is what's the impact going to be? Because if all of our students that take 2 years of foreign language, what are they not going to be able to take? Medical Academy, Engineering Academy, Mr. Troy, I was in conversations with your family about the arts and choir and band. So the other impacts of our other great things that make our school so unique, they're going to suffer.
They get diminished.
There's only so many classes you can fit. Now, on the surface, awesome experience for kids. They should, you know, but you don't need to, everybody doesn't need to be able to get in. It shouldn't be a requirement. Every child in the state of Illinois meets the graduation or the entrance requirements to get into the University of Illinois, which was the intended outcome. We're trying to make everybody fit into a box again, which is not what our education system should be. So anyway, it's very frustrating because this is not what we should be doing in education, and why our legislators need to get out of our way or allow us to get to the table a little bit more than they do. The 15 days, additional 15 days, Illinois can't afford this, and neither can we. So I hope that they leave that out. I mean, it's well intentioned, but it has no business. It's not going to be a good thing for our for our schools. So I hope that other schools are paying attention to what the impact, because we will be, if we have to add the 2 years of foreign language and what that's going to impact and try and predict that, because we're going to end up with losses of teachers in other areas when we add foreign languages. And that thanks for experiences for our students.
So the other bill that you referenced, the police and judicial bill, something else that just came out from that somebody's trying to pass is now that they're trying, because of that, they're wanting to vote on a new one to eliminate the school resource officers.
Yeah.
So not sure where we would head
What I
with
know
that.
about that is that legislator is known for audacious acts. And
Legislators who
this
grant-
there may be a very polite way of putting it, but that bill is going to be fought with a lot of fury from all sides. That's one that should be left with at the local level for us to decide. All educational entities that we're involved with, Luda, the ISA, we believe our school resource officers need to be in our schools. We value them greatly. We've recently invested so much in them.
They're trying to disallow them to be
Yeah.
there.
The bill
Yeah.
says that police officers must have just cause to be on school property. So therefore, it would disallow a resource officer to be.
How about hundreds of kids in the same building? That's enough rationale.
So, but
Most sane people, yes.
Yes, that bill was pulled.
right, but they expect
Because of the outcry from everyone.
it'll be
Outside
refiled.
legislators' children go to a parochial school, so she doesn't
They don't
understand
get it.
the benefit
They don't
of
get it.
a resource officer.
But some of the big changes, I mean, Representative Welch, who's the new Speaker of the House, is member and leader of the Black Caucus. The Black Caucus is a group that we pay very close attention to. They're a major player
Yeah, they're powerful.
in Illinois, and they have a lot of big plans. Well intentioned, a lot of big plans, and I think we have to pay real close attention to. Did I miss?
No.
Please do so with as much
No, I'm still
enthusiasm.
recovering.
I've been fired up all week.
Yeah, I know. Many people are. Linda was a marathon. It was truly not the way that the General Assembly should be operating. And I think that message was somewhat received. I think the House is working right now on rules to hopefully prevent that from happening in the future. But the Black Caucus did pass a whole bunch of omnibus bills. The theme for me, as was passing, are they're all unfunded mandates. They're all unfunded mandates, and we're already not funded by what we should be at our funding level, and this is just going to exacerbate the issue. And I think we're going to see many trailer bills coming out. Some will be good ones that will help, diminish the effects of the legislation. Some will not benefit us, but I'm sure the Alliance is going to step in and have a robust session with working with our legislators on that.
The good news is our representatives in Springfield have a very positive and productive relationship with Mr. Walsh. So that's good for us.
I really think that the new speaker has the desire to change the culture and to change the way things are being handled there. And he was an ally, he is an ally of Speaker Madigan, but I also think that he wants to be his own person and blaze his own path. So I'm hopeful that things are going to change in a more positive manner going forward. Same thing in the Senate too. I'm sorry, Sean, I didn't mean to take over for you.
No, I don't know.
I just wanted to mention that in the Senate, they're have reviewed and redone their rules as well, and they're going to have just a different structure that will benefit the way legislation is passed as well.
The only other thing I had was the Senate and the House will be back next week, and then February 17th is the State of the State address.
Actually, the Senate was canceled,
Oh.
so they don't go back until February 9th.
Yep.
Sorry.
So that's it. And I think they're going to talk about the state budget will be February 17th too, right? Rolled out with that?
Yes, they combine the budget with the state of the state.
Yep.
It'll be virtual.
Clear. Good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, appreciate it. All right, item 19 is Building and Grounds Committee. Mr. Troy via Mr. Nkasik.
Yep, thank you. I'll just move it straight to Mr. Nkasik for any highlights on this one. We can't hear you.
You're mute. It's gotta be the mute.
I don't think it's muted.
Gotta be.
There's no red light.
There, it's coming.
That said you're on mute. You're on mute. He's on the call.
You should be good now, Doug.
Is this okay?
Yeah.
Yep, you're powered up. Must have cut you off there for a while.
No, I've had some technical difficulties in my office. Is that better? No more echo. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, you're okay, just make sure you speak loudly.
I would like to call
Shout
your
at it.
attention to page 3 of my O&M updates. This is a summary report on the Strategic Energy Management Cohort Survey of Huntley High School. And overall, rather interesting is the total cost of what they identified as potential conservation measures that would save the district money are about, they're estimating $44,596. And they're
Doug, can you yell into the microphone? You're extremely quiet.
Oh my. I'm going to try
There you
to.
go.
Okay. Okay. I'm not sure why that is. I'm actually yelling on my end. Let me see if there's a volume.
That's
Is there a
okay.
volume button
Keep
on the
yelling.
mic or something. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll start over. I'll reboot. My apologies. Page 3 of my O&M updates. Is there a Strategic Energy Management Cohort Report on Water Conservation Audit of Huntley High School? There are a lot of little things in there. If you add up all the numbers, the total cost would be of what they're recommending would be just $24,600 in round numbers. Our out of pocket would be a net of $38,596 because they're going to give a $6,000 incentive. Part of what they want us to do is put smart meters in so they can measure the savings. That's a pretty quick payback. What is that ROI? It's in the neighborhood of a year and a half. A little less, a little more. But they've yet to get me details. With the holidays and the pandemic, everything's slow. We're working on it. If I turn to page 4, some good news. I ran a report out of our ComEd usage compared to last year to this last 12-month period that I could gather data from on meter readings. And there are 2 triggers that really create the energy consumption in our facilities on the electricity side. One is the heating degree days and cooling degree days. And the other is the occupancy level. And if you, I highlighted some months in the latest the year here, which are part of the pandemic period. In April, May, July, August, you'll see the degree days aren't that far off of what we saw in the prior year, but we had significant less consumption of electricity. Our solar came online in September, and you'll notice in September now, I'm amazed at how light we were because now by the time we got to September, we had occupancy with our teachers. We eliminated some of our energy conservation strategies that were triggering our HVAC to bring in out air proportionate to the level of occupancy, and we just left them wide open running about 2.5 times the amount of minimum fresh air required for a full occupancy, let alone most spaces only had a teacher in it and not a big room of students. And we still did very well. And that's because the solar is helping us. So it's just some good news. I'll have more details. We get through a full year of solar. The next thing I'd like to bring to your attention, been spending a lot of time talking to ABM, working through what a potential contract extension would look like. Their contract expires May 31st of this year. It will be 2 years and 11 months. And we selected 11 months on the last year because I find it to be very smart to phase in the new contractor at the beginning of the summer instead of middle towards the end when we're trying to scramble to get ready for the following school year. So the bid went out last year a little different. The last time, 3 years ago, a little different. There's a whole lot of pages of document of what they've been and I've been working on very hard. I would like to turn your attention. This is like first review of our most expensive service contract. So it's kind of a big deal for our department. Page 11 of the O&M updates document, the 19-page document, is the beginning of an explanation of what the forecast is. And I want to, it highlights something that's very important. As we go into now this coming year, the next fiscal year of this contract, we need to start addressing the minimum wage increase that's coming upon us that the legislators put in place. And it's going to be at a pace to get us to a far beyond where our annual CPI increase, our minimum contract increase language in our contract, our maximum increase would allow, which is CPI or 5%, whichever is less. And so there's a whole lot of backup calculations to this, but basically there's our annual costs. You'll see the top is on page 11 is our current year. You'll see the coming first year. And what we've done is we've recognized that the minimum wage increase is mid-contract year. And so we're looking at, during the actual particular contract year, we've got two parts of the cost analysis because we're trying to just stay a wee bit ahead on the pace of the minimum wage, like 25 cents ahead. Right now, this month, I understand it's $11, and we're right now at 11 and a quarter for our minimum wage employee in this contract. We're talking about the beginning of the next year, $11.75. The next minimum wage increase the state will have is $12 in January of next year. So we at $12.25, we'd stay just a quarter ahead of that. So we're just staying ahead of the pace. And you'll see that pace continues down the page. And that trickles then, of course, to all the other wage levels within the job descriptions, work classes. If I could take your attention, actually, I want to skip page 12 for a moment and go to page 13. I'm sorry, page 14, my bad. Page 13 is the current year. Page 14 is the first half of the first contract year. And they've got a typo on here. It should say June 1, not July 1, just because the way the contract structure is. We'll get that fixed for next month when we bring it for a formal final committee review and go to a regular board meeting and see what your preference is. If the preference is that you don't like it, then we'll put it out to bid. But we like our contractor. They're supporting us well, and we would like to continue to keep stability here during this pandemic. But what I want to bring your attention to on page 14 is if you look down the column of days per year, which is the second from the right in, you'll notice down there mid-page in the high school area, you're going to find some employees that are 192 days a year, and you'll find a whole bunch that are 240. What we found is last year they were having trouble keeping a full staff. What had happened was they had a major bailout because a lot of their employees found that in the summer months, they could get a job working for a landscape company, making a whole lot more money. But they came back in the fall. And the interesting point was we got the summer clean done. The heavy lift was done anyway. So they're saying in next year we can do it. We'll do it. Don't sweat. Those lost hours in prior years, we created a bank and we got value for that, and they didn't charge us overtime for extra activities, extracurriculars, and things that we had in that year. But in the future year, we want to take advantage of that right up front. So with that, the reason I want to bring that to your attention is in prior years, those employees, if you go back one page, page 13, those employees were in the current year are 241 days. So there's a loss of days there. The reason I'm bringing that to your attention is if you roll back then to page 12 of the report, if I'm going too fast, please tell me to slow down.
Go faster.
Okay, page 12, there's a cell C5 that's yellow highlighted there, and you'll notice the percentage increase in that particular line item, and that in column CD there, that first half of the first new contract year, it's a percentage jump, and that's because of the skew. They're still they think they need to offer the same PTO time for these employees that would only be working 190 days, so it skews the percentage. The other yellow highlight I want to bring to your attention is cell C10, equipment. Some of their equipment is worn out. Some of it they have to carry on the amortization. They said when they bid the job, they bid it as a 5-year amortization and not a 3, because they felt that if they didn't get a contract extension, they could sell the used equipment at the value of the 5 years of amortization. But there's also some equipment that's worn out. And I can greatly appreciate what they're saying. I want to bring your attention to cell C12. It's a brand new line, and that is because the original contract at our request included a product that was for the basic 4 chemicals that are the large consumption items for a housekeeping service that was generated by a tenant Orbio system. It's an electrolysis process using water salt that creates ionized water, and it's used for cleaning, and it's been tested and proved. Well, what they found was the manufacturer is having so much trouble with maintenance of the equipment now they're abandoning it. It's being phased out. By next year, it will be totally phased out with support. There's about 12 months left. And then right now, they won't even do a PM contract. They will provide a service rep on a call basis, but they're going to totally phase out of it. So we've got to abandon that. They've made the initial investment for the equipment, but now and then their annual chemical consumption cost was down, of course, to buying water softener salt, very next to nothing. And we're talking about transitioning back to the old-fashioned bottles of chemical. That's concentrate, albeit, but it will be dispensed at the right proportion at the site. But that's somewhat of a regression in the way things are. There's a newer chemical on the market that does the same sort of thing Orbio does, but it's much, much more expensive, and we're trying to keep our costs down. So those are things I wanted to bring to your attention about that. There's only one other thing. And that is if you turn way back in there, there's a page 18. We need to also address, we do have we consume a little over 3,000, over or under, depending on the year. This year it'll probably be under because of the pandemic and the loss of extracurricular activity, but we have to pay for hourly support of custodial services or extracurricular activity to the tune of about 3,000 hours a year. And we also pay on a as-we-go basis. If we had a full bus fleet being cleaned every night, it would be 12 hours per night. But since we don't have a full fleet, we're paying by the hour as a fair compromise under the circumstances. And they've actually been losing money on this. And the page after that, page 19, actually goes into the last 3 years. And the first year they had an accounting problem. It was their problem. It's kind of hard to read what was going on because there was surely more than 1,500 hours, but their limited management they elected to put on site wasn't billing us. And year 2, they actually had a real good operation going, so it's a good test. And of course, you see, it's what I told you, a little over 3,000 hours for an average year. It's historically been that way. And you can see that what they've had to do is they've had to take members that, I don't know how easy it is for you to tell, but what they've had to do is they've had to take people on overtime instead of plan people on regular time or subs to do some of the overtime that we call for, or the extra hours, I call it. And so the flat rate that they were charging us based on their original proposal, they've actually, almost like broke even. They lost a couple bucks. They made no markup. That was their cost. So they're asking for a little appeasement there of maybe, and that's how the analysis follows on the prior page to generate the numbers for what their blended rate they would want to have us use for extra hours in the future years. And with the blush cleaning rate, which I think are very fair numbers. The service has been fine. I would love to hear if anyone has concerns with this. We will be bringing this back to you next month for further discussion. Any questions or concerns? I'd be happy to answer them.
I'll open it up. Anybody who have questions, go right ahead.
I guess, I follow everything you're saying, that's fine. So, where do we think this is going as far as overall cost increase? What's that gonna be? These people have done a good job. We wanna be fair with them. There's no problem there. We're not looking to squeeze people, they gotta run a business and survive, too. So, where are we going with this as far as?
Bottom line, back to page 12 of my report. Go to row 28. And you can cross the page there, the first prompt coming year. D, column D, you're looking at a 3.47% increase.
Right, okay, that's right. Well, I was in the right spot, so that's good. It's a good start for me.
And then it gets worse in the latter years of the 3-year period because of that dollar launch each year in pay. You're looking at over 6% a year. But they're very transparent, the cost of the cost. I don't really think we're going to get a different cost from another contractor. This is a pretty transparent operation.
Yeah, so Mark, your thoughts. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's, Doug and I have worked extensively. Doug really has worked extensively with ABM on the numbers and beating them up where we can to keep the numbers where they are. But I also want to let the board know that, we did increase the custodial budget line item because we knew there was additional services that were going to be needed in this contract. And if there is a time to extend, right, a critical contract during the pandemic, this is the time. And so, so I'm very comfortable with it. And certainly from a budget perspective, the increases that Mr. Rinkosik is noting is baked into the current year budget as well. Now, if there's additional ancillary things that we need to do throughout the end of the year, we're going to pay, obviously that's overtime and that's, standard operating procedure, but we should be fine this year from a budget perspective. And we knew this was coming because of the minimum wage act. So we have.
That was the exact point that I was going to make.
Yeah, and we have it baked in the out years anyway. We have to do this.
We're within the window of having to work with our contractor, meeting the incremental increases.
Right, just as we're having at certain levels here.
That's where that's a good point from. That's the same one I was doing.
I want to add something else very important. I apologize for not saying it earlier. This does not include costs for enhanced cleaning in response to the pandemic and the children coming back next week. There's an agenda item later in the packet that's a temporary increase to support the needs of our enhanced cleaning that's required. That's coming later tonight. And that will be able to be suspended and evaporate in less than 30 days after we suspend that enhanced cleaning operation.
Yeah, but again, in theory, there's monies we're getting that are covering that type of stuff from the federal government.
That and the favorability of how we're operating this year.
Anything else to highlight on there before we close it up, Mr. Rinkosik?
Not from me. I'd be happy to answer any other questions.
Okay. Any last second questions? All right. Thank you for your diligence on all of that, Mr. Rinkosik.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So we're through then, right, with building and grounds?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Just making sure. All right, we're on to item 20, action items. Okay, so item 20.1. We have our minutes from the 17th levy hearing, et cetera, that's listed. Any questions, any discussion on those items? Then I'll make a motion to approve those minutes as stated in the agenda before us. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, that was Mr. Troy, right? Tell me. That's,
Yep.
okay, my hearing's getting better. Okay, and that is can do that on a voice thing. I think I have to do it as a roll call, please.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi, Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. Item 20.1-2, memorandum of understanding for use of the D-158 facilities as vaccination site.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Roll.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Dean, our Chief Safety and Security Officer, has been leading a conversation with the McHenry County Department of Public Health at the McHenry County Department of Public Health request to essentially use our Square Barn campus and Bus Barn as a drive-through vaccination site for the general public. We are, of course, happy to partner with NCDH and be that partner. A site walkthrough has occurred. Safety parameters have been conducted. We've reviewed this. As I said, we're happy to be that partner. NCDH will essentially take over control of the facility. We would gladly give them the facility and have some of our people here that will help manage that. But they will run and free us of our liability for allowing them access to that. The details of how that will operate will come out at a later date, but essentially we'll have people that will be entering our campus and use our full drive-through and enter our parking lot where the buses are parked and have all three bays for a drive-through vaccination facility in a 15-minute waiting period in the parking lot with EMS oversight as planned. It's a very well thought out plan. The Chief Security Officer, Safety and Security Officer, Mr. Dean, has been a participant in terms of how to make that flow function, knowing our campus and how things work to make that function. Our primary concern has been if that would occur during the weekday when we do a discussion versus a weekend. So those details we don't have, but given the fact that we obviously want to be a partner to the process and help the community, we'll do everything that we can as long as school's not in session when we use our facility. Very easily shift and move our buses over to the County McHenry parking lot and provide access to the bus barn for that drive-through services. So we'll support and approval tonight. We'll sign that MOU and make it official. And whenever they need us, we'll be ready for it.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Roll on this? Okay, then I'll make a motion to approve the memorandum of understanding that is being presented. Do I have a second? Second from Ms. Melendi. This can be a voice roll call. So all those in favor say aye.
You need a roll call.
Do you?
Roll call.
Wait,
Oh,
it says right
action
now.
items.
All right. Yeah, okay, so roll call, please.
Mrs. Melendi,
That's fine.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano.
Yes. Okay, that motion passes. Yeah, I think you can still specific items. It's not a big deal though. Okay, 20.2 is the Human Resource Committee. Mr. Gentry, you are the chair.
Right, single item is 20.1 or 20.2.1, HR personnel report. We've all had a copy of that. If there are any questions or comments? If not, I will make a motion to approve the personnel report as included in the packet.
Second.
Motion and a second. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Garrett, Mr.
Yes.
Guerin, Mrs.
Yes.
Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. On to 20.3 Finance Committee. Okay, we have for us our purchase orders, accounts payable, impress amounts, and disbursements as presented. Do we have any questions or concerns related to those items? Okay, any further discussion? No, then I'll make a motion to approve the purchase orders, accounts payable, impress issued, and disbursements for the amounts listed in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gentry. Roll call, please.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 7-0. 20.3.2, the 2016 debt refunding abatement resolution number 2021-0101. Mr. Altmeyer, do you have anything to say regarding this?
No, I think the memo stands for itself. The next three action items are really standard operating procedures. We've done these things. Well, we've done this abatement since the Marlowe 2006, right? Because this is abatement is tied to the Marlowe 2006 series debt. So we've been doing this one for a long time. So I'd be happy to answer any question, but it's the series 2016 because 2006 was refunded with 2009, and that was refunded with 2016.
Yep. Yes, it was.
We still have several more years of this. I think about 4. I might be wrong there, but it's several years left of abatement.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Question.
Yep, go ahead.
I know we've been doing these for a while, and this, like you said, has become standard operating procedure. How many years have we done abatements, and what does that total look like? I know we've done some that were optional in years past, and then we've done these. Can you just give a little bit of historical context of this?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this abatement, as I mentioned, is I
Like
call
the
this
first
kind of
one.
required abatement because this is debt we issued for the Marlowe edition back in 2006. So we've been abating that portion of the debt for the Marlowe edition since that time. And those numbers range from, early on, we were abating $165,000 a year. And then when we started to do some refinancing and pushing that debt forward, the amount of the abatement, the debt payment has increased to where it is now of approximately $474,000. So this required debt payment has been going on since, 2006. So 14 years of this. However, before this time, if many of the board members recall, as part of the capital development grant, the board committed to abating $400,000 a year of general funds, right, for the community for the purpose of giving back. And so from levy years 2013 through 2018, we were abating $400,000 a year. So the board was giving back essentially during those years. But preceding those years, for the years 2011 and 2012 levy years, that was when the community and the economy was not doing so well. And we abated significant dollars at that time. We abated 2.3 million in 2011 and 4.56 million in 2013 levy year, so that we could keep taxes completely flat. In other words, negate the impact of CPI over those years. So we've been really, to answer your question directly, we've been doing this, since 2011. But the last time we had a non-required abatement was levy year 2018. So
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yep, thank you. I mean, the true historical perspective on that is that entire Marlowe edition, which built the second, made it from a 750 to a 1,500 student school, was done without having to go to the community for a tax increase or any tax funds. We financed it ourselves. The idea at the time was at the time impact fees were coming in at several $1 million a year. So during the heyday of the big building boom here, we were actually slicing off big chunks of that debt. And then obviously the housing market crashed in 08, all those development fees dried up. And so we had to go through these mechanisms because we weren't going to be able to pay it down as quickly as we had hoped. So that's how this string of refunding but it was always, the communities really never paid anything more and we got a whole new half a school out of it. So it was a pretty good trick at the time to get that done and finance it and do it in the way we did. So it was, so that's the full history on that.
Yep, thank you.
All right. Any further questions on that? Okay, if not, then I will make a motion to approve the 2016 debt refunding abatement resolution number 2021-0101 as stated in the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Gentry. Can we have roll call, please?
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry.
Yes.
Thank you. Hey, Tony, if I could just add, we mentioned how many years do we have left of this 2016
Correct.
abatement? I just pulled the audit report.
Audit report.
It is 3 years. So we have 3 years left of this abatement.
Yeah, excellent.
Just to clarify.
Okay, good deal. Thank you, Mark, for that.
You're welcome.
Okay, on to 20.3, designates a person to prepare a tentative budget resolution, number 2021-0102. Is there any questions about Mr. Altmeyer being the person who prepares that? Are we okay with that? Kind of, okay, kind of, sort of. Right.
Every year I want to have a discussion.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Is there anyone else?
Is there somebody else in that office to help out?
Sure.
I'm sure there is. But okay, so I'll make a motion to appoint Mr. Altmeyer as the person to prepare the tentative budget on behalf of the board according to the agenda. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Ms. Melendi. Roll call, please.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
Always good when you get a 7-0 vote on that one.
Yeah, I know you sweated that one out. Okay, 20-3.4, establishment of the fiscal year resolution -2021-0103. Okay, so this is, yes, standard operating procedure. Yes, we'll comply. This is to comply with the state statute that you have a fiscal year on June 30th. Year end. So I don't think there's any issues with that. Anybody got any questions with that? No. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the establishment of the fiscal
February
year.
through January.
Yeah, exactly. The fiscal year for Huntington Community School District 158 for the Illinois State statutes to be July 30th of 2022. Can I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Creddy. Roll call, please.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Troy.
Yes.
Okay, that motion miraculously passes. Okay, on to 20.4, Building and Grounds Committee. Mr. Troy, your turn has come up again.
Yeah, I'll just turn it straight over to Doug. Time for the roof replacement bid, Doug.
Are we done
Thank you.
replacing?
This
Didn't we
is
run
part
out
of
of
our
room?
annual capital projects. This is our biggest project for the year. The numbers came in very favorable. We're about 10% under what we estimated the numbers to come in. I think we hit the market at the right time again. As you can see from the summary on page 2, there are a lot of people that were interested in this project. We had a lot of competition. They're all good contractors. We're happy to be able to recommend to the board, talked to Mr. Altmeyer, looked at the 20 fund budget, to accept alternate bid number 1 because both of these roof sections are showing some significant signs of end of life being near, and we're having to do repairs with tears and things from age and shrinkage of the EPDM membrane. So good company, Ridderford Roofing. They've done several projects for us where they're noted to be one of the best in the Chicagoland area. So we have no reason not to recommend them. There was one little irregularity. They inadvertently left the line blank where we have on the bid form, the bidder acknowledges addenda 1 through, and they left it blank. And immediately called them after the bid opening, and then the guy said, doggone, I told the secretary to put it in there. We called legal counsel because it is a big bid to see, he evaluated with us what addendas 2, 3, and 4 were. It was determined that the information in those addendas did not, and them being acknowledged or not, not give any financial advantage to the parent low bidder. So legally, we're on stable ground to waive that irregularity. All our bid specs do say that the board has the right to waive any irregularity in the bidding process and award in the best interest of the district. So we're not concerned about that. The only thing I will tell you is the board action is a little unique in that our attorney recommended that we ask the board to recognize that irregularity. So you'll see some language that's a little bit unique there.
Right. So exactly where was that? What
the end of the first sentence, first line? Waive the nonconformity. No, it's not in the spec. It's in the agenda
memo, right?
It's the recommendation line down in the memo. My apologies, Tony.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that the volume of bidders is pretty substantial here. It is good.
It's a record for my term here.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't recall ever seeing. I don't recognize half these names, but
We had people from the Joliet area bid this.
it's because they've heard good things about us. That's good.
This is what happens when we bid early and we have a big sizable project. We can get better unit prices because of the competition has increased.
Paul, was there anything further from you related to it?
No, go ahead.
Anybody else?
Unless there's questions from the board.
Yes, I mean, anybody have any questions?
Nope.
Scott, you said this was the last one?
That's my understanding, Doug. This is the last
Roof we haven't
roof
replaced?
that we
No,
finished.
this is another phase of the last building, not the last roof system. We
Huh.
probably have 2 more rounds of this size at the high school to get through the high school. We're now at the point, besides those latest additions in 2014, 15, and last year, besides those additions, we're at the end of warranty, and these EPD on roofs, we'll try to continue to work with Mr. Altmeyer to see how we can fund additional capital work. We'll have constant struggles, tugs between, do we look at asphalt? We've got some aging asphalt, take a ride up Marlowe, or this roof. But these 2 sections are ones that have reported leaks on too frequent basis. Several times a year, we'll have a section of either of these 2 areas that'll have a leak issue. We'll have to get a repair done, and it's a sign of age. I don't know how far you want me to go into the details of the whys.
No, that's plenty. That's plenty. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Just making sure I'm not being dense here. Reading the motion. All right. So, okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the roof replacement bid 2021-68 with the Board of Education waiving the nonconformity on the Ritterford roofing bid form and approve award of the combination of the base bid and the alternate bid for roof system replacement bid number 20-21-68 to Ritterford Roofing in the total amount of $946,634,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second for Mr. Troy. Can we have roll call?
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Item 20-4.2, the temporary ABF education contract adjustment. Mr. Rimkus, any further discussion on this? So anything further, Doug, from you on this?
We have a modified cleaning schedule that's on page 2, recognizing with our need to do enhanced cleaning to kill the COVID virus. We're looking at electrostatically misting all the buildings every day there are students in the buildings, and every place students are. We recognize that the virus, according to CDC, is after 48 hours on a surface is no longer alive. So on Fridays, you'll see we don't e-mist, and we take that opportunity to do a full clean on the floors in the facilities. We'll do a spot clean on the floors on Wednesday. And the schedule is a little modified on general finer points from what it was before because of the e-misting. We are also going to provide custodians during the day and extra body or to come in earlier in the day to continue to walk around as they are now it's not really an impact now because since we have been staffed a little light without student occupancy of a higher level, we've been able to just rearrange staffing, and have someone in there 30 minutes after the first bell and walk around, sanitize all high-touch surfaces, help out with any emergencies, and keep the bathrooms well stocked and sanitizers. We'll have to, that staff are pulling out of the evening now for that day. We'll also have to compensate that a little bit. So we did time study analysis of all the adjustments for this temporary fix, and that's where it comes into a net add of about 5.1 FTE. There's an annual cost down there, but that's only if we do this for an entire year, and they tell me that it'll be very easy to dissolve this need in less than 30 days, as I said earlier. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Any further questions? I'm sure there's no questions of the need. All right. So, all right. Then I'll make a motion to approve the temporary ABM education contract adjustment is provided in the agenda. Have a second?
Second.
Second to Mr. Troy. You have roll call, please.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Troy.
Yes.
Motion passes. We're on the 20.5 Curriculum Committee. Mr. Guerin.
Okay, the smart social contract, Dr. Rowe.
All right, so what I bring to you tonight, our children are tied to their phones. They're becoming more and more addicted to social media. They're designed, as we know, our social media apps are designed to keep their attention, engage them by monitoring their clicks, monitoring the content that they watch, and grab their attention so they don't close the app. And most of you kids that are through high school and beyond, or kids that are in high school or approaching high school, you know what that's like, trying to engage and monitor that. As parents, it's becoming extremely difficult to monitor the social media footprint, and we do our best to keep our kids safe, but the reality is we just can't keep up. So I came across smart social being a parent myself, and I was looking into it, and as I began looking into it, I found myself looking into it from the benefit that it could provide our community more so than just myself as a consumer. It's a service that we can provide our families and to help them stay on top of the social media that their children are engaged in, and helping them engage in conversations with their children at the table with the healthiest way, healthiest pathway to monitoring. So we as a school district have been trying to navigate digital citizenship for years. And I think we do a really good job in-house, but the piece and the component that we've been missing is in bringing our parents to the table and helping them, arm them with the conversations that they need to have with their children. And I think this might be it. What this is and how I am first engaged with this is just simply through YouTube. With some parent tutorials on what are the hidden dangers in Fortnite? What are the hidden dangers in Instagram? What are the hidden dangers in Roblox? How do predators begin connecting with your kids in the chat rooms in some of the most mundane, low-level kid games that my 9-year-old might be playing, that you don't believe are a danger. And all of those, the YouTube videos that you can access for free now are great, but then there's a lot more behind the curtain that I need to learn. And as a school district, what I'm presenting to you tonight is a subscription that we can take on with our grant dollars, our Title I grant dollars, and subscribe to for our community to have access to the behind the curtain, the VIP, the very informed parent portal. And what that library will do is it will give our parents access to a plethora of quick tutorials for navigating the good, the bad, and the ugly that the social media apps have to offer. How to talk with their kids about what these apps have, how to navigate screen time, how to set controls on their child's phones they might be getting for birthday or Christmas to control the screen time, what the advantages are to setting the night dimmer on your iPhone and the science behind how that affects your brain for being on your phone with the blue light, or right before you go to sleep, and how that impacts your sleep. You wake up. I just did it. It wonders. But it just makes things easier. So Additionally, it gives them access to monthly Zoom events. Zoom events that are hosted by Josh Oates, the founder of this company. I've attended one of them. The one I attended, it covered Instagram, Fortnite, Snapchat, and all the hidden dangers that are there, from location services to the Instagram, and how to find your child's fake Instagram account that exists, and how to easily check how many Instagram accounts they may have. And I think it was funny that he said if you think your child doesn't have more than one Instagram account, you're already lying to yourself. But what's great here is there's a lot of content and courses that our parents can go through that learn about the social media accounts that their children want to have and that they already have access to, where the dangers are. And it's an easy way for parents to catch up to where their kids are and not feel like, I don't know anything about it, I trust you, knock yourself out. At least it's a 5 or 10 minute quick tutorial to learn, and then they know what to look for, the right questions to ask, and how to engage in a quick conversation with their teen or preteen or even fourth grader of, yeah, this is not going to be happening, and this is why. But for us as a district, I think this is the first step, because it's not inexpensive. It's very expensive. And I like a whole lot about what this company has, and I like a whole lot about what could be down the road with them. But I'm comfortable with it because we're paying with it for grant dollars, but I want to just dip our toe in with the very informed parent side of things and vet some more of it out before we invest further. I think that what our parents are going to get out of the very informed parent side of things is they're going to reap tremendous benefits out of it. I was able to negotiate with them because a larger portion of people having access to the platform for the same dollar amount. Because I was explaining to them the size of our school district, that the dollars just didn't equate to the number of logins. But what they have that goes beyond just a very informed parent portal, if you saw in the packet, was an anti-bullying texting software, which is very intriguing, and it could be the next step for us. There's a lot to look at here. That anti-bullying texting platform can connect them directly with the counselor. You can call a number, and it will actually route their phone number to our counseling department. It was really, really interesting, extremely robust, probably 10 to 15 times better than the tip-to-text program that we've had in the past and have been pleased with, but was never as robust as I think our kids wanted it to be. A little bit closer to what the Make Help app is without going all the way. But we need to do some more vetting there before we commit to something like that. Something else that they have to offer that I'm intrigued by is the Student Branding Academy, which is a 6-week course on how students can learn about what their digital footprint is. Based on their social media, I think we all know this, based on your social media activity, colleges and universities can do a quick Google. If you Google yourself, you're going to see everything that pops up with your name. If your child Googles themselves as they're in high school, a lot of their social media activity is probably what's going to be first to pop up. Well, there are very specific tactics that this company, this program, and this course can guide you through that will alter that digital footprint. Not that it's negative just because they're teenagers, but it can control the content so that the portfolio that you build as a part of this course is the first thing that pops up, and colleges will then see that. That's extremely attractive to me as a school district, obviously wanting our kids to put their best foot forward, and colleges to, let's Google the students. Oh, here's the portfolio they sent us. Well, let's look into this further. So I think there's a lot that our students can get out of that. But again, not cheap. I want to dip our toe in and learn a little bit more about it and make sure that everything that we believe to be true about Smart Social is exactly what I believe so far. I'm excited about this, but I think there's a lot that we could be excited about a long-term relationship with them, and I think this is going to be a good first step. There will be a weekly component to the weekly newsletters that our parents can sign up for, and have tips and tricks to navigate the social media world. This will be available to all our parents. However, there's only 6,000 memberships to get into the VIP access. Now, I asked about that, as obviously we have many more people that are in our school district that may tap into this. And his answer was simple. If we surpass the 6,000, we'll be the first school district that has done that. Because the reality of people that actually follow through and take you up on that is not that. If you do that, let's talk. I'll just expand them pretty easily because we want people. You're getting your money's worth, and we can talk about that. But I don't foresee that being an issue. If it is, then if our money's going to good use, then we can talk about the expansion of that. So we went from 1,000 to 6,000 pretty easily. I don't foresee us having an issue more if our family's really good. I called down to St. Charles. St. Charles has been using Smart Social. They've been pretty pleased with it. For a positive local review in Charles District. So, I think that for a 12-month membership, just to get this tool in our family's hands will be a really nice thing for our parents to have access to. A great resource for them, especially with our kids being as isolated as they have, likely retreating to their phones and social media more than ever. So, if there are questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, love to engage in this and get this set up as soon as possible with information out for families.
Here's a question. I really like this idea. I think one of the biggest challenges of the parents is the social media and the access, limiting access for your children without making them feel like you're, big brother watching them, trying to find that balance between keeping them independent and monitoring a healthy social media
Being a parent?
presence. When you say 6,000, is it 6,000 logins or 6,000 app downloads?
6,000 individual logins.
So if I'm a parent with five kids in the district, I put one on each of these phones?
No, it's nothing that's going to go on their phone.
Oh.
This is you to access their portal for your learning.
Okay.
It's not a monitoring service.
Okay.
At all. It's not a monitoring service. It's for you to engage to learn about what he's learned about Instagram. So you can it's like cliff notes of Instagram. So you can learn what all you need to know to keep your child safe about Instagram or Fortnite and the chat features in Fortnite and how. Yes. How to turn off the location services in Snapchat was the biggest one. How to make sure that because what you can look and then as you narrow down in Snapchat, it will go down and turn into Google Earth, and you will be able to see a Google Earth-like image of your house. Yeah. Snapchat and all your friends if you don't turn off location services in Snapchat. And how our kids are, if they accept a friend or accept a follower and they don't really know who that person is, you're inviting predators to know where you live. So there are some very unsuspecting preteens that are inviting danger potentially into your home. And I think that's one of the easy things I picked up as a parent and immediately with the conversation that I was able to have, and we corrected those things.
Yeah, I like this idea, especially if we're paying for it.
Right, paying for the Title I dollars, and we'll try it out for 12 months, and then set those other programs out, and room for growth within the grant down the road.
Might be a good tie-in with those educational things that we're doing by parents and,
Parent University.
Parent University.
Absolutely. It fits perfectly with that, and it can be remote, the Zoom event, on your own time, in the evenings, or on demand, which is a great feature. That'll happen to people.
The opportunity to ask questions.
Right.
Mr. Garrett, it's still your committee. It's still your committee.
Sorry.
I mean,
Hold on one second.
no, I can make the motion. It's not probably, I didn't know if anybody else had any.
Jumping out of the board book, I think you back in. Are voting. Okay, so I guess I'd like to make a motion to approve the contract for Smart Social as presented.
Okay.
Second, Ms. Melendi. there any further discussion? Now, let's have a roll call, or did you have something? Okay, then let's have a roll call.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. We have 20.6 policy committee. Maiorino, do you have anything?
20.6.1, we have a second reading of press policy revision. Dr. Rose, is there anything you'd like to?
Nothing further to add, second reading.
Any questions from the board? Then I will make a motion to approve the second reading of press policy revision. May I get a second?
Second?
Second from Mr. Graham.
Mr. Craddy, recognize his voice better. Okay, can we have roll call, please?
Mr. Gentry,
Yes.
Mr. Guerin,
Yes.
Mr. Troy,
Yes.
Mr. Quagliano,
Yes.
Mrs. Melendi,
Yes.
Mr. Craddy,
Yes.
Mrs. Maiorino.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. On item 21, adjournment. Mr. Craddy, you're in charge of adjournment, it says here.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Okay, we'll make a motion. Okay, we'll make a motion to adjourn the January 21st meeting at 9:21. Second. Second from Mrs. Maiorino. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay, we're done. Good night.
Meeting was